Hey there guys, it's Metro, and today we're back, yet again, me and Cop here, in another video in the series where we're introducing Mythic Plus dungeons to hopefully new players, but also returning players, all different types of players, including Cop. So tell me a little bit about, this time we're going to be doing Siege of Boralus, so tell me a little bit about your experience with this dungeon.
I tried to do it with 4 other tanks, and at the spec I had no idea how to play, and eventually got kicked.
Wait, what? When did that happen?
That was your attempt at doing 5 tank dungeons.
I kicked you?
Play...
Is that what you're saying?
Well, no. Eventually, you got rid of the group.
Oh.
There was no way we were going to finish the key with the 5 tanks that we had.
I think somebody left or something. I think that's what happened.
Yeah, that might have been. One of the pugs probably left.
Yeah, okay. All right. I was going to say... All right, anyway. not the expected start here, but we're going to be talking about Siege of Boralus today, and this one is... I'm not going to lie to you guys. This is a video I've been dreading to make, because I absolutely do not like this dungeon at all. I think it's probably one of the worst dungeon designs that they've ever had in the entire game, and I think it's time to get to it, because there's a reason that it's got one of the worst dungeon designs, period, and I think we're going to have to talk about that today. So we got to face the grim facts here. You get Siege of Boralus, you're going to have some trouble, and especially some weeks it's going to be much worse. So the thing here that you're going to notice is if you're Alliance, you do not start here. In fact, I'm not even sure I can show you where you do start as Alliance, but we might be able to. I think it's like just basically above us somewhere. You start in the actual like city itself, like if you were in the city of Boralus. So, but yeah, we'll talk about that. But this is where Horde starts. Also, you should be aware that Horde, frankly, just have an easier dungeon than Alliance. I'm not really sure why. There's mobs that are basically only present on the Alliance side, and they're like 5 times harder than any other mob in this dungeon, which is really bizarre. So yeah, this dungeon is just kind of like objectively harder as Alliance, but I guess Alliance have found a way to skip all the Alliance only stuff and start on the Horde side in some weird... I don't know much about this, but either way, first thing you're going to see here is 4 mobs, and only one of them is an elite. And this is really a trend in this dungeon, really a problem in this dungeon, because this dungeon sets up extremely poorly with some affixes. Like, I'm talking about, I cannot emphasize how poorly some of these affixes interact with this dungeon. The main one is, of course, bolstering. This dungeon's pretty much about 50% of its trash packs are going to interact insanely poorly with bolstering. Maybe closer to 70-80%, depending on what you do here. And also, you know, any dungeon that might have a similar effect like that, like we're talking about busting, which is currently this week, things like sanguine, explosive, any dungeon that, or any affix set for dungeons that are going to really penalize you for fighting really low health mobs. You know what I mean? That's not a good thing to see in this dungeon. And in fact, I would say that bolstering fortified is the hardest, bolstering fortified Siege of Boralus is the hardest dungeon in the game, because there's mobs that we're going to show shortly here that literally they just one-shot you once they're bolstered. It's insane. They're absolutely the most devastating mobs, and they're very a pain, just a huge pain to deal with. But anyway, this first pack's nothing special. These footmen are going to put this haste decrease on you. You'd notice it, but it's really not a big deal at all. You just kill everything quick. It's got so little health that it's not even a big deal. And the halberd guy here is going to he's going to try to knock you back, basically. But one thing to notice here is that there's a second halberd walking in. So yet again, bolstering. This mob almost always gets pulled, so we're just going to pull it now. This mob almost always gets pulled. There's the slobber knocker there you see actually knocks Cop back. So you want to make sure you're not in front of the mobs when they're doing that cast. Right now it's easy enough to deal with because you're just fighting them and non-elites. But there's going to be another pack coming up where it's a lot harder to deal with. But just be aware, when you're fighting the Cultier and halberd mob, they're going to try to knock you back, and that's basically it. That and the haste debuff. One thing that you should know, which I probably don't ever think about, but if you jump in the water, or you get knocked into the water, or you run into the water, or whatever, if you end up in the water, one way or the other, you will die. You have a couple seconds to get out, but these sharks here, they will kill you. So if you're in the water, you should be in trouble. You should consider yourself in trouble. You can get out of it as quick as possible. Do it. Same thing here with the wave tender. Go ahead.
Don't pull a cop.
Right, exactly. So there you actually see it. This wave tender is a pretty dangerous mob type as well, and it's because of this ability that I just put up here. Watertight shell, damage reduction reduced by 90%, and when it expires, it stuns everybody near the mob. So a bit of a pain. The wave tenders again. Basically, you just want to try to interrupt their cast. And it's kind of like a lot of the other dungeons I always talk about. For me as a tank, and there's the hasty buff there, by the way. Hindering cut, haste reduced by 35%. That can stack. So if you're in combat with these for a really long time, you might have like almost no haste. But anyway, the wave tenders, I always run into this problem with because I'll go to interrupt their basic cast, and then the big, like the important cast, doesn't get interrupted. So just keep that in mind as a DPS, especially melee. Now here we go. Before we even pull this mob pack here, I want to talk about this. This here pack is the one that starts the pain here. These 2 marksmen surrounded by 2 footmen is almost trolling. I mean, I have to say it. Like, I think Blizzard is trolling with this pack. These footmen die so freaking fast. There's no possible way that you would kill the marksman before killing the footman, which, you know, that's what you want to do with bolstering. If you guys are new to affixes in general, bolstering is an affix where you basically want to kill all 4 mobs in this pack at the same time. Well, you can't do that when one mob has a third of the health, maybe less, you know what I mean, than the main mob. And I'm telling you, these marksmen are brutal. They basically, long story short, they just don't have threat. They just attack a random person. And they don't actually auto attack or anything. They cast an ability that does like a chunk of your health. So when they're bolstered twice and 3 times on this pack, and I think maybe even on teaming, yeah, on teaming it's even worse. I don't know if there's a teaming, I don't think there's a teaming bolstering, so that's not even a thing. But yeah, either way, when these mobs are bolstered, they're severely problematic. And you can stun them, you can knock them back, but they're going to constantly be trying to cast the shoot ability at a player who's usually not the tank. I mean, it's 1 in 5 chance that it hits a tank. If it hits the tank, consider yourself extremely lucky. So you want to make sure you're monitoring who he's actually targeting, because if he's targeting the tank, don't interrupt it. Let that cast go off. Otherwise, I've done this dungeon on like a key where we're kind of, this was actually, ironically, we had planned to get a high key starting Season 3 so we can get the stuff we needed from Mythic Plus early. We got 18 Siege of Boralus with bolstering. So this is why I feared making this dungeon, because I still have PTSD from this first dungeon of Season 3. And really, we wiped every single pack. Literally, I'm pretty sure we just straight up died. The marksman just killed us in succession over and over again. The only way you're going to not die there, if you know you're in over your head on this, is just stopping them from casting. If they get a single cast off, it's probably going to do like 70-80% of your health on a high key. So yeah, your healer's not going to be able to keep up with that. But anyway, let's pull it. You'll see what I mean. Also, another problem here is these footmen run. So a lot of the times they'll just be running off in their own direction, and it's just a real pain. There's also stuff up here, which I guess we accidentally aggroed. But there you go, that Molten Slug mechanic. Yeah, and you'll probably see some other abilities. But yeah, it's gonna shoot cop, you see. Even on 0, unbuffed, it did, what was that, 6% of your health? So, I mean, that's not really saying much. But I'm telling you, on a high fortified key with bolstering, this is the worst dungeon, without any question. Ask anybody. I don't know, man. I don't know what they were going for here. And I have to say that I have no respect for it. Like, whatever they were going for here is just unfair. It's unbalanced. It's imbalanced. That's all there is to it. There's no other dungeon in the game that synergizes this poorly with the fixes. Maybe Toldagor and Sanguine. But other than that, this is just, it's really, really unfair. So you're going to see a lot of these.
Is it possible to stun them in any way? Or like with my paralysis? Or
yeah.
Or...
There's lots of ways to stop it. But just like look at it this way. It's basically their auto attack. Like they're just going to keep casting it over and over and over again. So if they're bolstered, they have more health, right? Let's be on the same page there. The more bolstering stacks they have, the more health they have. So that means they're going to take longer to kill. And obviously, they're going to do more damage as well. So it's like you'd have to interrupt every single... I'm talking about one of these casts potentially one-shotting a damage dealer. Like, that's how much damage that's going to do on, say, like 18 bolstered twice. You know what I mean? So it's just ridiculous. It's absurd. And every pack from the start of this dungeon until the first boss is like this. Every single one. It has these non-elites covered, like one or two big elites covered in non-elites. Every single. Like, there's not a pack in here that's not like that. So it's really annoying. I don't know what they were going for. Now, one thing before we actually fight here, you'll see... Oh, he actually aggroed.
Sorry.
All right, that's fine. Anyway, what I wanted to show was that there's a lot of different mobs here that if you get too close to them, they're going to aggro. And what's going on here is like... Basically, it's like a story thing. There's, this is not ideal. So anyway, let's talk about this pack before we talk about that. So this halberd mod, this is a very dangerous pack. The pack we just pulled, probably one of the hardest in the dungeon. This halberd is going to do the slobber knocker. You need to deal with that. The wave tender is the mob we talked about earlier. You need to make sure you interrupt the watertight shell. And then we also just killed a marksman. So again, multiple footmen and 3 elites. No matter what, you're bolstering some of these mobs 3 to 4 times. It's just unbelievable. It really is unbelievable how bad this dungeon, this design of this dungeon is with this affix. But before we do anything else, I do want to talk about what's going on here because, so this Scrimshaw Gutter, I guess the story here is that, I never played Alliance, maybe you know more, Cop, but basically there's like a 3rd faction here that's come in here to try to take over the city. Do you know anything about this?
Yeah, it's Ashvane's forces. That's why she eventually winds up in the dungeon that the Horde rescued her from. Is she tries to overthrow Kaltiris and take over for Jaina's mother while Jaina's in the Shadowlands.
Okay, so yeah, some RP shit, but anyway, that's what's going on in the dungeon. So there's a lot. You're gonna see this a lot throughout the dungeon. There's these footmen, and they're fighting this mob. Now it looks like, oh, whatever, they're just fighting these mobs, but because both are in combat, you don't attack them. But you see, we got close. Now we're in combat with them. This happens all the time. This is another reason this is the worst designed dungeon in the game. Because if you get too close to these mobs, you're in combat with them, but they don't attack you, so you don't know you're in combat with them specifically. So it's just really annoying. The gutter literally gives no count, doesn't do anything. You just one-shot it. Actually, we'll show it here. If you just damage the footman, like watch this. I'm going to throw, this Death's Caress at the footman. The gutter just gets one shot. So you don't even have to fight that thing. Doesn't give count, doesn't bolster, doesn't do anything. Well, actually, it might bolster, but I don't know. It's not really a thing. So just be aware that that's pretty common. Wait, what the hell is this? Captain Redhook. What is this? Oh, he killed them. What the hell? Oh, so I think that was the Alliance boss, or the Horde boss. I don't know. Yeah, there's, wow, that's interesting. That doesn't happen on Mythic Plus, I don't think. Chopper Redhook. So I'm pretty sure this boss is actually different on Horde and Alliance. When you come here as Alliance, you fight that dude, an ogre. So, but the dude just killed him. I never saw that before. Anyway, that's interesting in its own right. But let's talk about this room, because this is actually another big problem. This room is hell. I hate this room, and not only the trash, the boss too. Everything that you fight in this room is hell. And first things first, again, because you got a marksman and a vanguard, another low health mob, or another big health mob covered in low health mobs. You got 4 footmen this time, so this pack is like auto wipe on bolstering. You're never gonna. The only way to circumvent this is to just CC. That's it. You're never gonna kill this pack without people dying on bolstering. It's almost impossible unless you're doing like a +4, something like really low. These mobs are going to, especially when they're bolstered 4 times with these footmen, they're going to one-shot people. It's not if, ands, or buts. I'm not exaggerating this. It will one-shot you. So there's no way. You either stun every single, like you knockback, ring, paralysis, stun, grip, all of it. You do every single cast you prevent, or you die. That's it. There's nothing you can do about this. Or you CC, which is probably what I would do if I was worried about it. Just bring 2 classes that can CC and pull them back. But bolstering is more complicated than that. You have to be really far away from the mob. So if I was going to CC this pack, you'd have to fight them probably like back here to make sure. It's not just CC them and be good, but you'd have to come like all the way back here. So the other problem here with this pack, though, this is not the only thing. As we described, these footmen, they run. Thanks a lot, Blizzard. 2019, we still got mobs running, and they are going to run into the boss. Oh, my God. The amount of times I've had this happen, and this wall, the way you get out of the room is right here. This wall opens up. There's a wall between here. It opens automatically. Unless you really sprint and get here, you're not going to get out of this room. The amount of times I've wiped to this footman mob type, I mean, it wipes you on bolstering, and then it wipes you normally anyway, because it runs into the boss. So I'm telling you right now, if you're going to do this dungeon, be ready for this footman. It's a random chance. Obviously, there's 4 of them. If one of them run towards the boss, you better have a way to stop it, because it's not going to stop on its own. There's, again, it's a chance, random. It could run any direction. It could run towards us where we are now, could run to the right, could run to the left. It could even run to the other pack over there. It could run to this pack over there. But pretty good chance it's going to run in the direction of the boss, one of those 4 mobs. So as Death Knight, it's not too bad. I always waste D&D on this pack because I'm always trying to maximize my damage on this pack. But I really should be saving slow D&D for when they run. I should also be saving Death Grip for when they run. So as a Death Knight, it's not too bad. Monk, you got a couple options. Obviously, you could stun, Ring of Peace, Paralysis. But you just got to be ready, because this I'm telling you, man, I hate this dungeon. This dungeon is really, it's very annoying. So let's see. It'll probably happen right now. Let's go ahead and kill the pack. But yeah, there's pretty much never a chance that you're not going to have trouble here with bolstering. Heavy slash as well. Make sure you move out of that. Basically the same concept. Yeah, so you see all 4 of them were actually running. That time, all 4 of them literally were running right for the boss. If it wasn't a 0 and we didn't kill them before they even got anywhere, all 4 of them would have ran right for the boss. So like you either better kill them, stun them, prevent all 4 of them from getting there, because one way or the other, they get anywhere. Basically, if they get to like, put a marker, if they get to like this stuff right there, that little seaweed there, they're gonna pull the boss, and then you have to either dead sprint out or wipe. That's it. No other options. So yeah. Anyway, same thing could happen on this pack. This pack's a little bit easier to deal with. I usually grip this pack, I guess so maybe it's not that big of a deal. But I like to try to keep them all in this little area here. Watertight shell, again, you're going to want to interrupt that. We did not, and it's got 10 seconds. You could AMS this, by the way. I'll show you here. The mob's not going to die because it's got a massive debuff on it. So I'm going to AMS. Boom. Cop gets stunned. I didn't. That's called being pro. And anyway, yeah, just make sure you interrupt the wave tender. This pack is also really bad with bolstering because it's got a marksman and a wave tender. The wave tender at least is interruptible, like straight up interruptible. But the marksman, you're going to have to try to grip it, blah, blah, blah. And that's that. And then, yeah, we've got a little paralysis there for good measure. So, really not, there's just no way around it, one way or the other. It's really just not around it. So, okay. So let's talk about this first boss here, because this boss, I think, is probably one of the easier bosses. I mean, it's really not hard. This is one of the easier bosses in the game. It kills himself. He kills himself, okay? Literally kills himself. You don't even have to do damage to him. He would die eventually. You could do 0 damage to this boss and he would still die, okay? But people still mess this boss up royally I don't know when the last time I did this well was. I really don't. That's how bad this dungeon is. Every single point of influence in this dungeon can go wrong. And if you don't, like, this is a guaranteed breakup here. If you fail on this key, people just leave. It's fail on this part of the key, people just leave. Wipe on this first boss, that's it. So let's talk about this boss. A couple small things you need to be aware of. Basically, there's going to be mobs out the whole time. All right, these mobs that start with the boss, you probably just want to kill them first. I like to just kill them first. Really, on any serious key, you're probably going to want to do that, okay? If it's fortified, I see a lot of people not kill them and just burn the boss because he's got so much less health. That's an option. That's an option too. You can obviously just, the tank tanks them. If you're going to do that route, what you should do is just have a tank all these mobs. And just, the Vanguard is the mob that we showed before, the one in this pack here. He's going to do an AoE. It's like a really, really long frontal stun, basically. It's small. It's only, about the width of the character wide, but it's really long. Like, I'm talking about from one end of the room to the other. It'll hit anything in a line. Very, very, very long. So, as a tank, if you're not going to, if you're pugging, basically, if people don't know what they're doing, just tank him away. Just turn him away so he won't hit anybody. But at times, that's not going to be an option. So just as a DPS, you should know this, okay? The mob is going to do... it's going to be happening pretty frequently, too. So you're going to want to keep your eye on this mob. You can kill him. You can fight him however you want. I don't really care. But just be aware that the second set, when it spawns, you do not have to... basically, this is going to happen a couple times in this dungeon. The mobs are, like, unique. They can't be replaced by another mob. Only if they die will they respawn. And how it works is I think it's every 25% he summons new mobs. So at 75, 50, and 25 he would summon mobs. But if you just don't kill them, there won't be any more. Okay? So one of the ways people do that is they just CC both of them. Really common to have rogues, demon hunters, monks, and keys. Just CC them. Don't break the CC. Keep them 100% health. They do nothing in CC. That's it. Fight is now effectively like that mechanic's gone. So a really, really good option. If you're the only one who's going to do it, I would recommend CCing the marksman, because the Vanguard is going to be kind of annoying, but at least he's going to be on the tank. The marksman is, again, a marksman, so he's just going to shoot random targets. Not going to shoot the tank. He's going to shoot 1 of 5 players every time. So if I was I was in a group where nobody else knew what they were doing, but I could CC, I would sit on my CC, make sure I CC'd the marksman. Of course, all bets are off if the boss runs by the marksman, which will happen, because there's no way you're going to stop. The CC is going to break at that point. But a lot of the times, the way it works is they come from different directions a lot of times. So you'll see, like, one will spawn They can spawn like all over the room. I think they could spawn maybe in set spots, but it'd be like one there, one there. I think they could spawn over here. I know they can spawn in like generic areas, so I think that's kind of how it works. Not exactly sure. It doesn't really matter, but that's where they're going to spawn in general. So just sit on it, you know, just wait. If the marksman spawns over here, just CC it. And then the boss shouldn't really ever be close to that. Nobody should really ever go behind this wall here, but I have seen people do it. I don't know why you would, because then you're line of sighting the rest of the group, but I have seen people do it. But there's more to it than that, okay? So this boss cannot be tanked. He does not ever attack the tank. This is why this fight is so stupid. He does not attack the tank, okay? He only fixates on a player. It could be the tank if there's nobody else alive, but it should never be the tank as long as there's another player alive. And it's going to massively prefer range. I don't think I've ever seen it pick a melee when a range was alive, but maybe it's possible. I'm not going to say it's not. But as long as there's a range, it's going to pick a range. Guess what happens all the time? 3 melee, 1 healer. Picks the healer. Guess what that means? Healer's doing 0 healing the whole fight, running around in circles. Great fight. Absolutely great fight. What a spectacular fight. So, anyway, ideally you'll bring a ranged DPS here, because if it picks the healer every single time, this is a much more complicated encounter. But provided that they can heal, let's not even talk about that, because that just shouldn't happen. Anyway, the main thing here is that this boss is effectively going to kill himself, all right? He's going to order artillery strikes. There's 2 different types of things that are going to happen mechanically in this like set of things. One is going to be, one is like, they look slightly different, but they're these kind of blue circles that are going to be on the ground for a couple seconds, and then eventually a mechanic is going to happen. One of them is just, it damages the ground and knocks anything back and does some damage. And one of them is a bomb. It's going to place, I think it's going to be 3 to 4 bombs. I'm not exactly sure how many bombs, but I think it's 3. There's going to be bombs on the ground, okay? They have a duration. They're going to last, say, like 20 seconds or something like that. When they expire, they hit everybody. But if a mob runs over them, they take a ton of damage, and they get stunned. If they're the small mobs, the boss is technically stunned, but it doesn't really matter. They're going to take more damage after they get hit by them for a little bit, okay? So basically, the way most people do this fight is they start on the Vanguard, burn him down, the range kites the dude into a bomb, and then everybody switches to the boss, and they do like 30% of his health, then they switch back to the Vanguard, finish it, and then they chase the boss around in circles for the rest of the fight, okay? So just be aware of that. And the big problem, the reason we're even spending all this time talking about this fight is because I have done this fight so many freaking times where the person who is kiting the boss has no idea why they're kiting the boss. You're not just running around in circles. You need to make him hit these mechanics, okay? Ideally, you're going to hit the bombs, but if you can make him hit the other mechanic too, that's even better. It's both. Like, you want to do as much damage to this guy as possible for free. So you want to make sure the bombs need to be hit one way or the other. If they expire, you might die. Depending on the key level, it does a lot of damage. But if one person just soaks it, like a tank could run over there and just hit it, then it only hits them. You understand? So yeah, it's not really, it's not that big of a mechanic, but it is a mechanic. So just be aware. If you're playing a ranged DPS or a healer in this fight, you're going to not be standing still at some point. It's never going to not pick you unless you have 4 ranged. Very, very, very unlikely circumstance. So you need to know what you're doing here, okay? Now, there's another small point of emphasis that I do want to bring up. It's this mechanic. He tries to like grip you to him. He's trying to like pull. He's got a chain around you. He's trying to pull you into him, okay? It kind of like times out if you resist long enough, and then he does this big AoE around him. It hits everybody no matter what, but if you're in the AoE, you just get one shot pretty much, okay? And the whole time he's trying to kind of pull you towards him. If you get pulled towards him, he does it immediately, okay? Now, that sounds like a bad thing, but it's not. It's actually a good thing, and I don't understand why so many people don't get this. When the bombs are out, there's a timer. You understand? So you want to make him hit all 3 bombs. If you're running away from him for 15 seconds, he's not going to be able to hit all 3 bombs. They're going to explode. So you want to go through that mechanic. You want to let him catch you. You know what I mean? It's not a big thing. You just let him catch you and run before he does the AoE, and you'll survive. But the amount of times I've done this where people like don't seem to get that, or I'm like, just run into him, and then they stand there and die to the AoE. It's like, it's baffling. This fight is the worst first boss in any fight, in any dungeon this expansion, because so many people just don't seem to conceptualize this fight properly. I don't even know what to say. Let's just kill it because I'm so sick of talking about it already. The worst fight, man. Again, just the whole dungeon is just a joke. The really, really poorly designed dungeon. So as you see, it's on cop. If it melees you, it's going to keep... Don't let it melee you. You're going to die even on 0. Run. You got to run. You got to run. So there you see I got stunned. So here's the blue circles. The clear ones are going to drop bombs. Yeah, you're going to die, dude. You got to run. What are you doing? Okay, so there's the Hangman Noose. So that's, you want to run, and then you want to get out of that, see before he does anything. So, I don't know. Just an absolute pain. But the good thing about this fight is it's perfectly soloable. So if you're a tank, you can easily solo this fight because all you got to do is just run away from him and run him into bombs. Like, if you're the one non-idiot in the group, it's the easiest fight in the game. The only problem is the longer he chases you, that's another problem there. So that actually happened. That's a big deal. So I accidentally kited the mob into the boss there, you know what I mean? Or into the bomb there is what I mean to say. So, but what I was saying was, you'll see here, the longer you fight him, the longer he's chasing you, the more stacks you get. So you see that knocks you back. You'll know you got hit by it if it knocked you back, but you'll probably just die. But yeah, anyway, I guess I'm going to try to finish this myself, but I guess I could battle res too, but yeah, so there you see the gaze. It's just going to keep getting stronger. Basically every second that it's on you, it's going to keep getting stronger, and there's really nothing you can do about that. Like, you have to make him hit a bomb, otherwise you're not going to be able to complete this. So I mean, we might not even be able to do this here. I don't know. You want to damage him a bit so we don't wipe her? Let's go ahead and kill him.
Okay.
But yeah, it's on you again, so you're dead.
I'm sorry. Even knowing everything you said, it was everything at once. It was just almost made it impossible to conceptualize what you had just said to me.
Oh, there you go. So this is why
mean?
this fight is just an absolute joke, because nobody seems to understand anything about the encounter. It's such a bizarre encounter. Like, nobody ever tanks a boss as a DPS, and this is effectively what you're doing here. Like, you're the boss. You're the tank for the boss. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. a DPS is the tank. They're the ones you have to do the fight, and you cannot let him melee you because he's gonna crush you. And that was on 0. He was hitting you for like 20% of your health. So, but you see, this is how you got to do it. You got to make sure he hits these bombs. And as you see, he hit one there. And then as long as he does, he's gonna take a bunch of extra damage, take a big chunk of health off, and he's gonna reset these stacks. You know what I mean? So, this time I'm just gonna let this. I was gonna let one of these mobs hit it, but it's probably better to just do this. But as you see, perfectly soloable encounter, because he does so much damage to himself here that you don't even need to do damage. You literally just kill him and you just kite him, and he's gonna be fine. But you have to actually set yourself
your
up.
distaste for this dungeon.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's the dumbest fight in the game, and all the fights are like this. Literally every fight is something stupid like this. But yeah, the boss itself is very straightforward. It's just problematic because nobody ever seems to know what to do. You have to set yourself up here. You need to know where you're gonna stand before you stand there. Let's put it that way. If you're the only range, this is the most frustrating thing about it. If you're the only range and you're not ready to do this fight, then just don't do the key, please. Just save people the trouble and just don't do the key, because it is so you're gonna have to run back. It's so frustrating how many times we come here with one range and they just flub the fight up so bad it's just impossible. If you do not have him hit those bombs, you're done. If all 3 bombs don't get eaten by him, you're done. It's over. You're gonna die, right? So I'd say, like, this is the hallmark of poor execution in this fight. The boss targets the one range and they don't move. They're just standing there casting spells like, I'm casting Shadow Bolt, Shadow Bolt, Shadow Bolt. He's hitting me. He's knocking me back. He's knocking me back. Now he's pinned against a wall. The amount of times I've seen some brain dead range pinned against a wall in this dungeon, I don't even want to think about it. It's giving me nightmares. Let's keep moving here. This is the worst dungeon, man. It really is. But one thing I do want to bring up here. Go ahead.
I said it really is. Like, it's a nightmare. I could just tell from that first boss.
Yeah, they're all going to be like that. So it's this Shredder mob type, I believe. This is the Alliance only mob. This guy is like a rapist. Like the hardest mob in the game. And you never fight him as Horde. We don't go right here. Okay, don't ever go right here for any reason. I don't actually know. I've already forgotten to look for where Alliance start, but I don't know. You'll know it if it's Alliance. Now here's another problem here. This commander that you see padding away, This is a mob that's easily skipped if you're not careful. It sounds like a good thing, but it's not actually a good thing because you usually need count from them. I like to pull him anyway, but instead, I often end up skipping him by accident just because of how slow he pats. If he's at the wrong place at the wrong time, you wouldn't be able to pull him if you wanted to. You don't want to pull this Marauder that's coming up here. This is very dangerous. Oh, wait, that's not the name of it. That's the wrong mob. I'm talking about this Raider. The Iron-Tide Raider, very dangerous mob. I would not want to pull this mob on purpose. So what you're going to do is you're going to pull this pack here, and then you're going to go right. Now these are just 4 non-elites, so this is pretty easy. But guess what? They're not when it's bolstering, right? A lot of non-elites in this dungeon. Then you're going to pull this right here. But let's just normally I would have pulled that together. I'd grip the Wave Tender, or the Wave Shaper, that is. But let's just say we didn't do that, so now we're going to fight the Commander. The Commander is a pretty dangerous mob type. Does this trample mechanic here? A couple of these in the dungeon you're going to see. It's going to always charge at a player, basically. And when it does, you need to make sure that you're not in the way, okay? Because if it hits you, it's going to do a ton of damage, and it's going to stun you, okay? So obviously, you want to make sure if it's charging at you, you want to be ready for that, okay? This is very common. Like people get stunned by that all the time. Big deal. You don't want to get hit by that. But anyway, so you normally would pull the Wave Shaper. Again, this is another one of these mobs that just try to interrupt the shield. Yeah, watertight shell. There you go. You got the interrupt. Perfect. So just want to make sure that's interrupted because otherwise it's going to AoE stun everybody. It's like basically like an AoE stun that a mob has. What kind of game is this, right? Like no other mob in the game has an AoE stun, so it's kind of funny. Same deal here. Again, a Wave Shaper covered by multiple non-elites. Pain in the ass for bolstering, but same deal. Just try to, this Powder Shot mob is actually like, it's kind of like a one of those marksman mob from before, but it's just way less health, so it's not as big of a deal. But again, if it gets bolstered, it's going to shoot you like crazy. Here's another bizarre. Again, if you're ever in the water, you're going to get eaten by sharks, though. So you can get knocked over. You can just accidentally run in the water by accident here, so just be careful. This is another unique part of the dungeon. Get behind cover this guy runs. You basically, it's like a little gauntlet. It's not going to stop until someone engages the mobs. Similar to how it was in Iron Docks from the old days, but basically you just got to get up here and engage the mobs. So as the tank, you really want to do this. You want to make sure you're doing this. But this is where more great design by Blizzard comes in. The Ash Vein Spotter, probably one of the most unique mob types in the entire game. It's basically going to order the same artillery strike that happened on the first boss on a player. It's then going to shoot 4 of those artillery blasts, okay? But most interesting is that it can damage the other mobs too, just like on the first boss. It can damage both you and both the mobs. So what a lot of people like to do is they like to get really, really creative, quote unquote, with that mob type there. And they like to use it to kill the other trash. And I'm not saying it's a bad idea. Certainly not. But it's just way too much work at times. I like to just have it kill the pack that it's with and just kill it and move on, okay? But a lot of people are going to pull a lot of extra stuff with these mobs, so just be aware of that. If you're doing this dungeon for the first time and you see people talking about save the spotter, use the spotter, talking about the spotter in general, that's what they're talking about, that spotter mob there. They're trying to use that mob to kill other mobs. And in fact, I think you look at the highest keys possible, they think it's mandatory. So you're going to probably see it in your travels at some point. I don't like doing it.
You don't want to run away like I did with the spotter is what you're saying.
You want to make the artillery strike hit mobs one way or the other. If you're fighting a pack with it, you got to make sure you use it. If it's on somebody and four hits go out and it doesn't hit the mobs, and I don't know what would happen. People would probably leave or something ridiculous. So, if you're fighting that mob and you're trying to use it on purpose, the way you use it is stand on top of mobs and then just move. Like an artillery strike comes down, move, another one comes down, another one comes down, another one comes down. Just don't get hit by it, but make sure it's hitting the mobs. And the tank can move the mobs into it as well. But a lot of times people are going to pull the pack we just fought, and then they're going to pull this pack over here, okay, right across from us with the Wave Shaper. And they might even pull even more over. There's a bunch of stuff fighting over there just for nonsense. Just to get you stuck in combat, let's put it that way. But it's pretty common that people are going to double pull here. Don't do it on bolstering, because obviously then the guy's going to be unkillable. But it's still, it's a good strat. I'm not going to say it's a bad strat. Just be aware it's probably going to happen in your travels. I don't really like to pull this pack without that, though, because that's trash that you don't need. And it's, again, pain in the ass trash. So down here, again, more footmen just fighting these guys. Nothing special. Just kill them quick. For some reason on this boat, you're going to also get hit by this artillery strike. You see it there? If you get hit by that, you would die. Like, it does a lot of damage on a real key. I've actually had people die to that. Like, straight up just get hit by that and die. So, make sure that doesn't happen. Now, there's a couple things that you can do here. And, again, there's a bunch of mobs just fighting each other for no reason. You can go across the left here. Again, you don't want to be in the water, but you don't have to. You can just land on these planks and run. We're not going to do that here. But it is an option. And the only reason you want to do that is if you, I guess, basically need a little bit more count. I don't really know why people do it, to be honest, but I have seen people do it, so it is an option. The other option is come up this way, and then you fight everything on this side. So another big pack here with the Commander, again, bolstering Nightmare, Wave Shaper Commander, and then the Powder Shot guy again. Pretty low danger mob pack, but it's still, on some affixes, it's really problematic. Again, the Commander is going to charge, just dodge that. But the main thing we want to talk about here is that you could skip this pack pretty easily. A lot of people rogue shroud here. A lot of people are going to shroud this. I don't know how Season 4 is going to look, but a lot of people would shroud on the boat, and then they would just jump here, and they would just go up the bridge and skip the pack. You could also skip it in other ways, like a rogue or a druid can just stealth, and you guys can die. You jump in the water and die, so you don't even pull the pack. Demon Hunter could also pull off a little trick here. You can just jump here and then just glide onto the bridge if you really wanted to. Skip the pack that way. Not like that's going to help, but I don't know. Just a couple options there to skip this pack if you really want to. We're just going to pull it, obviously, because it's not a problem at all on 0, but something you might want to keep in mind. The trample, big problem. Interrupt the watertight shell. As you see, these mobs are going to aggro. So, yeah, just a real pain. You get too close to these mobs, you're going to be in combat with them. This is very, very common at this point to be in combat with mobs, and you're probably not going to realize why. Whoa, what the hell? Your clones are pretty aggressive there, huh, Cop? Jesus. They're pulling everything.
I didn't even realize I'd thrown them up. I did that completely out of instinct.
Interesting. Well, anyway, it's not really a problem, but I don't know if that happens in the key. You're going to have some trouble here because you definitely don't want to pull this deep into that. But, yeah, realistically, the 3 packs that we accidentally pulled there, probably one of them, maybe 2 of them are accidentally going to get in combat with you. And you're going to be like, huh, I can't mount. Why? That's why. You're in combat with some of those stupid mobs fighting each other. Oh, okay, so another absolute A+ from game design here. Just the biggest joke of a combination of mobs in the game. Again, tons of low health non-elites. The spotter, which up until this point I've told you has been beneficial. This time it sucks. I hate this mob here. And the cannoneer. Okay, this cannoneer is a very dangerous mob type. Basically, it doesn't really do anything. Every once in a while, he shoots his cannon, kind of loads it up, then a big AoE in front of him, kind of like a 45-degree cone in front of him. You get hit by it. Go ahead and release. You're dead. It's over. You're going to get one shot. So, big problem here is the spotter does not have an aggro table. Didn't talk about that earlier because it didn't matter. Now it does. The mob is just going to do whatever the hell it wants. A lot of the time, it's going to try to run away from you. In fact, it's going to do so much that it wants, it's just going to leave, okay? So, you're going to want to make sure that you keep it corralled because if it gets too close to the boss, guess what? Go ahead, Cop. Tell him what.
It's going to... I forgot already.
It's going to aggro the boss. What do you mean you forgot? Oh, my God.
Oh, I thought we were talking about when you were already in combat with the boss.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to aggro the boss.
Yeah, so the spotter is going to aggro the boss very, very often. Again, 2 bosses in a row this happens. Actually, 3 bosses in a row now that I think of it. But, yeah, this boss especially, it's going to happen. If you don't have a death grip... It's so common, man. I just freaking hate this stun. I really do. So anyway, what I like to do here is I like to just either go right for it if it's an easy week, get all this nonsense, kill it all at once with the spotter stuff, or you could also pull it to the side. There's the broadside there. Make sure you're not in front of the guy, otherwise it's going to do a ton of damage. But otherwise, you can kill everything but the cannoneer and the spotter. The cannoneer and the spotter, as you see, freaking jumps right into the boss there. Cannoneer and the spotter will not die to their own damage here, so... I just got to keep that in mind. But a lot of people, there's a couple ways that they approach it. You can actually pull the Marauders on their own. Since they're already in combat, it looks like they would aggro the mob, like the stuff that they're with, but it actually doesn't. So if you're really desperate and you're really taking it slow, you can just pull them all individually and then get them out of the way and then kill the spotter and the cannoneer. That's an option, but it's not really a feasible option. Like, not something anybody's gonna do, but if you're really worried about like on a bolstering week, you can do that. The other thing a lot of people do is they'll try to line of sight everything. They'll pull it and then they'll fight it here. Like they'll go here so everything comes around this corner. And that's all well and good until the cannoneer gets here and tries to shoot you with this cannon. And then everybody has to run, otherwise they're going to get one shot. Then that's all well and good until you realize that you're now fighting the freaking cannoneer in a narrow hallway. So if he's facing this direction, there's literally nowhere to hide that you won't get hit. Terrible design. Anyway, all right, let's talk about the boss. This boss is really simple as well. Basically another boss that it's like basically a ranged boss. She doesn't auto attack. She just casts a shoot ability basically over and over again. It's always going to hit the tank this time at least, but sometimes it does damage to other players too. Long story short, you just want to kill her as fast as possible. This boss is a pain because when her energy reaches 100, she leaves. Summons these adds. When these adds spawn, you need to kill the cannoneer, just like the mob we just fought, and he's going to drop his cannon. This time you're going to pick the cannon up and you're going to shoot it at him instead. You're going to hit the boat. You got to hit the boat with the cannon. You can whiff. You can miss. You can go side to side backwards and do nothing with the cannon. Might as well just leave if that happens. But what you want to do is you want to hit the cannon or hit the boat with the cannon. It's going to end the mechanic. So basically what you do, the adds come down, you nuke the cannoneer, somebody picks the cannon up, extra action button on your screen, you shoot the cannon, phase ends, go back to the other phase. But every 100 energy it happens, and that phase is really drawn out. Like it's not fast. These mobs spawn, they take a while to get to you. All the while, the ship is bombarding the deck here that we're fighting on. It's going to be arcane damage, so if it's Death Knight, you can AMS if you get stuck. But it's basically going to be like 75% of the playable area covered with this damage, and then the other 25% is safe. So you got to find the safe spot. Harder than it looks because it comes out in waves of 3. So like it'll try to cover 1/3, then the next third, then the third. Sometimes they overlap, like part of overlap. So a lot of the times I run into what was a safe spot and then it's not safe, and then I run back into a spot that I thought was safe and I get hit. But as a tank, it's fine. You're not going to die. DPS, you will get one shot for sure. Other thing here, if this mob is not slowed, she's going to disengage, just like the spotter. If the mob is not slowed, I think that's actually how it works on the spotter too. I'm not 100% sure though. But either way, if the mob is not slowed, it's going to disengage. That's a problem because there's not a lot of passive slows in the game. Death Knight, it's easy because we have 2 passive slows. But I don't know what you do as other tanks. I have no idea how you handle this. I guess Brewmaster, they have one. Maybe Warrior does too. But one way or the other, somebody needs to slow this mob. If you ever see it jumping all around, like freaking jump left, right, backside, that's because it's not slowed. So if you have a slow, use it. It can also be death grip for some freaking reason. You can death grip this boss. Look at this. How ridiculous is that? So it's actually beneficial to death. So you see it wasn't slowed. So there, you can actually death grip this boss to benefit because it'll interrupt its cast. This here, clear the deck. Just move out of that. It's just a frontal hit. Doesn't do anything. Not that dangerous. And just make sure you don't get hit by it. But here you go. Withdraw. Here comes the cannoneer. We're going to mark the skull. We're going to kill him mad quick. We got to kill him as quick as possible. If you don't kill him before 3 rotations of this arcane damage thing that's going to happen, he's going to summon another set of mobs. We found this out the hard way. So you got to find a safe spot. You see? Pick the cannon up. Shoot it. If that happened, that same arcane mechanic happened 3 times, there another set would spawn, which is bad, real bad. I'm talking about terrible. So anyway, as you see, I can easily death grip it back if it jumps away. But you saw how far it jumped. Like it ran like 100 yards away. That's far. So you got multi-melee comp, and you're going to have that mob jumping all around. That's just a pain. Also, you want to kill the adds. The deckhands don't need to die. You can literally... Basically, if you kept... This is another mob type. If you kept these deckhands alive, they wouldn't be replaced by new mobs. They can only come new if they die. So what you can do here as a monk is actually really good. You can get up here and CC one of these deckhands, so they're CC'd on the boat. Really good play. Demon Hunter and Monk can do it really easily because they got nice long range, quick CCs. Mages, other classes are going to have a lot harder time, but it is possible. You just got to be ready for it. Shaman, Hex, etc. But if you CC these mobs, basically if you don't kill them one way or the other, they're not going to come a second time. They're never going to join the fight again. So you could even just not kill them. You just kill the boss and just tank them the whole time. But that's pretty unrealistic. They'll die to cleave. Just a heads up, just in case anybody ever does that. It's a good option to CC them. Very good option. Makes the fight a lot easier. A little bit quicker too, obviously. But the big problem here is lust. You really want to lust on this boss if you can, but not on the pull. Don't lust on the pull. The fight's too short. The first phase is too short, that is. She starts with like 75 energy. So it's only like 15 seconds before she goes on the boat the first time. Then when she comes back down, she has 0 energy. That's when you want to lust. Either the first time she comes back or the second time she comes back. A lot of people, they wait to see if the second time she comes back, she's going to die. If she's not, they lust. If she is, they don't. Because you don't really gain anything from lust on this fight. One way or the other, you're going to waste some lust. It's either going to be at the end of the fight or in the middle of the fight. You're never going to get a full 30 seconds on the boss. She's going to leave, right? So you'll only do it if it's going to help you skip a whole rotation, a whole phase or whatever. Lusting at that point is very, very valuable because it's going to save probably 30 plus seconds. If you don't, you miss that, it's going to, you're going to waste a lot of time. But otherwise, you want to lust what's coming up here. The trash up here is very dangerous. For some reason, there's a Cultiran weight. I don't know what that is. Just a dude standing there. Don't worry about that. I don't think that's there in Mythic Plus. Anyway, a lot of times people like to, again, another one of these here. DPS, hide behind this, either the fountain or this wheelbarrow here. Tank goes up real close to them. They run away. You see, look how coward he is. Typical humans, right? Typical alliance. They're just going to run. Freaking scum. Anyway, here you might want to find a good target for lust. A lot of people like to pull the Demolisher and then these 2 Buccaneer and the Pillager pack here, okay? Before we do that, I want to talk about this mob type. The Demolisher is extremely dangerous mob type. He does another frontal stun, all right? Basically the same mob type from earlier. It's just way more telegraphed this time. If you get hit by that, expect to die. You're probably going to die. The other mechanic he does is an Aoe Fear. It's a physical fear, though. You cannot AMS it. And let's pull him. I'll show you. You cannot AMS it. If you're a warrior, though, you can get out of it. You can get out of it with whatever Berserker Rage or whatever. There's Crushing Slam. Again, it's like a 200-yard stun. Just don't be anywhere near the front of him. If you're anywhere near the front of him, you're going to get one shot by that. Let's see if he'll probably die because Cop's going like Berserks mode. So there's the terrifying roar. You see a giant purple circle. You get hit by that, you're done now. You're getting feared. All right, don't get hit. Obviously, you don't want to get feared. But a lot of people will pull that with these 3 mobs here. These mobs are harder than they look. There's also these stupid freaking bananas, another great mechanic. If you run over these bananas, you get stunned, all right? So don't get stunned by these bananas. It could cause a big issue. I'm telling you what, I always do this as a tank. I'm running to engage the pack and I accidentally run over the bananas. Then I'm stunned. So the DPS don't get stunned. They're attacking the mobs. Now the mobs are running at all the DPS and I'm stunned. I can't even get threat. But either way, if you don't do that, separate. Definitely want to pull both of these together. They're really not that dangerous. This banana rampage, you can just stun that. Again, you're going to get hit by the bananas that he's throwing. You're going to get stunned. They do a lot of damage. Just put it that way. Just to stop them from doing the damage. Nothing particularly dangerous with these mob types. They're just a pain because they're going to constantly try to stun you, basically. Long story short. Just try to stop the banana rampage. If not, basically what they're doing is they're throwing bananas. They're throwing bananas. You can't really tell because they're too melee. But it's going to throw a banana at a random person. Okay, so it could be far away. It could be right next to him. It's got a little bit of a travel time, though. So, like, you ever throw a banana in real life?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's got a little bit of a travel time. So if I'm throwing it from, Cop, stay there. If I'm throwing a banana from me to Cop, it's not instant. It's got to travel. So you can just move out of it. But if it's on melee, a little bit harder because it's very close. So you're probably going to get stunned. But again, so here, Cop, run over this banana. Watch what happens, dude. Show your fans. See that banana right in front of it? Run over it. Look at that. Stunned. Thanks for stopping by. Good luck. Good luck tanking when you're stunned. Not good. Now, this Tempest is another thing entirely. This mob has multiple interruptible casts, and you just want to lock them down if you can. Does damage castable ability, and it also does a heal. So it's a pretty dangerous mob type. Water spray there. It makes it a real pain because what's going on here is this Demolisher is padding around this square courtyard here. So there's a banana rampage, as you see. I dodged it. Blizzard disagrees. I got stunned anyway. I just hate this fight. Choking waters again. Just interrupt everything this mob casts. Come ready to interrupt this mob because there's revitalizing mist as well. That's going to heal. You definitely want to kick that. But yeah, banana rampage, just run out of bananas. Otherwise, eat a banana, get stunned. Like Cop, see a stun over there. But anyway, that's that. The big problem is that this Demolisher is going to pat. So if you don't interrupt that dude, the caster, he's just going to stand there and he's going to pull the Demolisher. And at this point, not a good idea to pull it all together because you probably used all your CDs on the first combo pack. Like you'd pull those 4 mobs, comboing 3 packs together. You probably use your CDs there. Cop gets feared. Doesn't take my advice. Doesn't run out of the purple circle. Not good. You get feared on this mob. What's that?
I was stunned. I couldn't run out.
Told you, bananas suck, dude. I don't care what anybody says about potassium, vitamin D. I don't care.
Yeah.
Don't eat bananas. You're gonna get stunned. All right,
Agreed.
so here again, same mob types. Nothing special. These mobs aren't anything special. They're just a pain. I just have a bit of a hatred for them because of how often I get stunned. See, like, I'm out of that, and I still get stunned. And if you get stunned by the first one, you're probably not going to get out of the second one. This Pillager, by the way, just does an AoE frontal cone. It actually has 65% movement speed. Thanks again, Blizzard. Great design there. So the one mob is going to slow you by 65%. So guess what? 65% more potassium. Oh, boy. Anyway, yeah, just watch these bananas. That's all there is to it. And, you know, they leave the banana on the ground, so you probably won't see it. You see this stupid banana on the ground? I'll be tanking the mob, hunky-dory, run, frickin' stunned. Although I didn't get stunned because I had the shield up. If you ever absorb, by the way, pro tip, if you ever fully absorb a mechanic, you cannot take its secondary effect. So because I have a 380k or whatever, 38k absorb on me, failed to get stunned. But anyway, that's not going to happen in Mythic Plus. It's only 0. Now, a lot of the times, as you see, we accidentally aggroed here. A lot of the times, you're going to need extra count. This is the place to get it. This little room here. It's the same mobs you've been fighting. Nothing different here. If you need extra count, come get this mob. This is actually a real problem on teaming. Real problem on teaming. This dungeon has very, very little count on teaming, the normal way you'd go. You have to pull about 2+ packs extra, okay? Now, again, another Demolisher. He's patrolling. They always patrol. I want to try to get this mob killed before we fight it on some week, especially on bolstering, the hardest week, right? Make sure you separate them. Pretty easy to do that. Just grip it or pull it when he's not in his apex. But otherwise, if he is in his apex, meaning as close to you as possible here, you can probably pull him with this pack, the pack we just killed. A lot of times you'll see people at the apex here pull him and then kill him with this pack. Pretty easy to deal with because you can just hide behind this building if you really need to. But yeah, either way. There's oftentimes an emissary here too. We're not really talking about Season 3 anymore, but yeah, if you really need to, you can just hide line of sight behind this building here. So, Cop successfully dodged the fear this time. Good work, Cop.
Well, when I'm not stunned, it's easy.
It's a lot easier. I would say so, yeah. But when you are stunned, just eat apples. Just don't eat bananas. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Here you go. More bananas on the ground. All the time. I'm talking about, all right, here we go. Rush headlong into this pack. Hardest pack in the dungeon. Here we go. Really hard pack coming up. Stunned. Just kills the momentum, man. Pop pre-pot. I got CDs going. I'm ready to go. Focused. Time to crush this pack. We're going to go crazy here. We're going to light this pack up. Oh, I'm stunned. Guess what? Demon Hunter in your group, he doesn't care you're stunned. He's charging in. He's now got threat on everything. It's a pain in the ass, man. So just make sure you don't get stunned here. Now, this is another pack a lot of people skip. This is actually a really dangerous pack. I mean, this is 5 mobs, and none of them are non-elite. So probably the first pack in the dungeon that's actually got real high volume and danger. So a lot of people shroud this. Some people might even skip it with an invis pod. That's how dangerous it could be. There's also emissary interactions in Season 3, but I don't know what it's going to look like in Season 4. Either way, you're probably going to skip this pack some, one way or the other. It's not that dangerous, but it does have a Tempest, again. So it's got a couple Buccaneers, a couple Cutthroats, but the Tempest is the big problem. You want to make sure you lock this thing down because you're fighting 5 mobs on a fortified. If you're not locking down the Tempest, your tank's probably just going to straight up die. Whether it's between the bananas, the water, choking water, all of these different mechanics. This rotting wound as well, you really got to dispel this if it's got a couple on the tank like this. It's pretty dangerous. It's a pretty dangerous disease there. So a lot of magic damage on this pack. Let's put it that way. If you're playing a DK, it's not too bad. Just get a good AMS with Vamp Blood up, and you'll be in good shape. But if you're playing something besides a Blood DK, and you don't have a lot of, you got a lot of vulnerability to magic, let's put it this way, this can be a very dangerous pack for that reason. A lot of debuffs coming up, let's put it that way. So if you can dispel diseases, you want to do it. And coming up here, you want to dispel poisons as well. Now guess what? On the way up here, more bananas. I do this all the freaking time. I run into one of these 2 bananas up here. And again, that rogue in your group from Azralon, he doesn't care about bananas. He's running into the pack one way or the other. So make sure you dodge those 2 bananas. Again, we got a spotter and a couple mobs. Now, this pack is more dangerous than you might think. Because again, they're just going to keep using shoot on a random person. So I've had it where all 4 target 1 player, and even on an easy key, they one-shot the guy. So it could happen. If all 4 shoot the same player, that person might just outright die. So you really want to make sure you're using the spotter well and getting this pack cleared properly. But again, if you shroud there, you can mount here. So this is a really easy double skip. You'd skip the pack down there, get hit by a banana, and deplete the key. don't do that, obviously. If you shroud and you get hit by a banana, you might as well just unsub. Anyway, yeah, you shroud, mount up, then shroud, obviously, and then run past that pack and run past this pack as well. If you have enough count. Again, you could easily not have enough count in this dungeon. It's a real pain. Okay, so here we go. Third boss's room. Another pain. The boss aggroes. He aggroes everything in the room. That's a good thing. It's also a really bad thing. So you got to be very careful, because if you pull the trash at the wrong time, a lot of its casters, like 50% of its casters. So if you don't get it, you don't clear the room properly, the boss is going to aggro, and it's going to aggro more stuff. Or conversely, you're doing like a really easy key and you want to pull it all. That's a great thing. You know, that's a really good thing. So we've done that before. We've also made the mistake otherwise. So just want to always pull it out here. You want to always fight it out here. You never want to fight anything inside. And you see how long it's taking it to get out here. So if we pulled it when the boss was in the wrong position, those mobs that were lingering back there would easily stay in there, and they would easily pull the boss, most likely wiping us. I've seen a lot of people make this mistake. They recover from it with lust. Really don't want to have to lust here. Okay, so this mob here, what was the name of the mob type? Must be the Invader. Yeah, the Invader. This is probably the most dangerous poison. I mean, it's probably one of the most dangerous dispellable things I've ever seen. It's unbelievable. They coat their weapon, and every time they auto-attack you, they stack the poison. It stacks to 5, can be dispelled, but it's going to just keep going on you, okay? So when you're fighting these packs, just be ready for that. It's very dangerous. If you have no druid, I mean, I don't know what else can dispel poison. Can Monk do it? I don't know, but...
I can.
You can, okay.
Done it a few times already.
Alright, so yeah, if you can dispel a poison, it's needed. This is where it gets needed. This is really dangerous. That mob is very, very dangerous. He does a lot of damage with that poison. So just be aware of that. Otherwise, it's nothing you guys haven't seen here. It's the same mob types that we fought. Again, just you want to pull everything back. A lot of people like to pull them right here. The line of sight using this here to make sure they all come here. But again, that Demon Hunter in your group, he doesn't care about that. He's going to go in while when the mobs turn the corner, he's going to be attacking them. So pretty common. This is also another really problematic area for necrotic. Didn't really talk a lot about necrotic in this series just because it's mostly a tank affix, but if there was a dangerous time for necrotic, it's this pack here. We're fighting 5 mobs, so you're going to get a lot of stacks, and this commander cannot be stunned, gripped, knocked back, nothing. He can't do anything. He's going to get you. The only way you're going to drop necrotic on this is gamble on the trample. Kite the rest of the mobs and make sure he tramples far away from you. You'll be able to put the distance between you and him, and you'll actually get out of range of it. But otherwise, you're going to probably die. I die here every time it's necrotic. It's so difficult to survive this pack. And obviously, it's problematic because they're all casters. So again, now this is another common thing here. You got that pack left. I'm just going to pull the boss. Just pull the boss. It's easier and quicker than pulling the trash. And just run him out here. He's going to reset. And the trash is going to come regardless. Oh, he should reset. If he gets far enough out, he's going to reset. There you go. You got to get him by this rubble. But anyway, you pull that stuff. Get it together however you want to do it. Death grip works fine. Line of sight otherwise. And again, these snipers just going to keep shooting random players as you see. So you really just got to... This whole dungeon is like this. These mobs do so much damage to non-tanks. This is basically the non-tank dungeon. If you're a non-tank, get ready to take a lot of damage in this dungeon. Especially on some weeks. Really, any trash week, it's a pain. I don't know which I like less in here, really. Because trash in here can wipe you, for sure. Like, it can absolutely wipe you. But on Fortified, the bosses all suck, man. These bosses just suck. So, anyway, let's talk about this third boss here. It's a really straightforward encounter. Basically only has 2 mechanics, but they can interact in very problematic ways. Effectively, he's going to do this thing where he's going to smash the ground, and it's going to cause water to kind of shoot up from the ground. It takes a couple seconds, but after a while, water shoots up from the ground. If you stand in this spout of water, you're done. Get ready to get rezzed. But easy enough to move from. But the problem is, it does a ton of damage regardless, even if you don't get hit by it. So if you're the healer, you got to be ready. Every time that happens, you want to try to get maybe some damage protection. Like, you know, you can get, if you're a Dix Priest, obviously just put bubbles out. But it's going to do a lot of damage. Like on a higher key, it's going to really hit hard. But for the most part, there shouldn't be any other damage on the fight. So that's pretty much the only thing you actually have to heal. The boss has a ton of health, though, so it's always like a dilemma. Should we lust here? Should we lust the final boss? I would never lust this boss if I could, just because the final boss is notoriously problematic. Really long encounter. Just hate that fight. So this boss, even though he's got a ton of health, he's not very dangerous. So I wouldn't lust here, but a lot of people do like to. Otherwise, the only other mechanic that you're going to ever have to deal with. The tank has one other thing. It's basically going to hit this kind of like a line of water out. It's going to stay after it lands as well. So you kind of like position them so you don't cover too much of the room with it. You'll see it when we fight it. But the big problem here is every once in a while he's going to summon walls of water. They're going to come from one of the 4 directions of the room. One of the 4 sides of the room. A wall of water is going to come. And the only way you're going to survive this is by line of sighting using this statue. I believe that's probably like Balin Proudmoore or whatever. Dalen Proudmoore. Anyway, you're gonna line of sight with the statue. That's the only way you're gonna survive. If you don't line of sight with that statue specifically, you're gonna die. You're gonna get one shot. But the thing is, the water also washes away the patches of ice that are on the ground from the boss. So just keep that in mind. That's gonna clear it. But again, if you know the water, if there's paths of ice in the line of sight portion, then it's not going to wash that away. So that might be a problem as well. Sometimes people run into it. The other problem I've seen happen here pretty often actually, is if you're on the far, like if you're on a wall, like if we're fighting the boss right here, right up against the wall here, and the water wall spawns here, that's it. You're done. You're going to get one shot. So just keep that in mind as a tank. You really don't want to fight him on the wall there, because it's very common that, that's pretty common. So you really want to try to keep him in the middle here. Try to use this box to your advantage. You're going to see the mechanics here. Break water. So that's that mechanic. Just move out of that. It's going to do a ton of physical damage afterwards. Or frost damage, whatever. It's going to do a ton of frost damage. Make sure you use some kind of healing CD or, some kind of damage reduction every time. And again, this is how we're going to do this. It's not very dangerous. You can just run through that as DPS, but we're basically going to make sure that every time he's not covering a new patch of ground. And that's a problem because a lot of the times when you do it, so that you got to make sure you move out of that, because if you get hit by that as a DPS, you're probably going to get crushed by that. And on top of that, plus break water, you're definitely going to die. So yeah, basically you want to just try not to have him cover the whole room if possible. Not really that big of a deal because he cleans the room up himself. But Crashing Tide, you used to be able to you still kind of can. You used to just be able to stay directly into the boss. A lot of people do this. I don't really think it's worth it. Like, I don't know. Just the off chance that you have to move the boss and he's going to start running around in circles because of how close you are to him. But you can do this. You know what I mean? Like, if you really want to, you can just stand directly under his hitbox. And you don't have to move from the mechanic. But, I don't know. The odds that that's valuable. No, so watch this. I'm probably going to die. Just stand. Yeah. I mean, it does a ton of damage. If I got hit by that in a real key, it would definitely crush me. I'd probably survive one tick of it, but the thing is it's going to keep ticking over and over again, so that's GG, obviously, if that happens. Yeah, that's definitely the easiest boss in here. It's kind of just a free boss. Really, all 3 of the previous bosses are very easy, too, but nobody knows how to do it. Now, here's another thanks a lot, Blizzard moment. This stuff here, you get hit by this, you die, all right? You get hit by this, you die. And there's a lot of problems here because it's all kinds of uneven ground. So you might be running, you might get stuck on a rock. It's not happened yet, but happens to me all the time. I get stuck on the rocks around here. Yeah, like that. See this? Even though it looks like I should be able to run over that, I'm just stuck for some reason. Happens all the friggin' time. Stop. This stops when you get down here, though, okay? So here you go. Let's talk about the stupid... Well, that's debatable. I was going to say the stupidest boss in the game. It's a really stupid design, but it's not that bad of a boss if you actually know what you're doing. So I'm going to give you the inside tips. Let's talk about this. There's 2 types of mobs on the fight, okay? Technically, you can just kill the boss. The boss has 13 million health on a 0, though. What do you think? Probably not a good idea to kill 13 million health, huh?
No.
So, yeah, you're not going to ever kill him outright. We've done it for various reasons. We won't talk about that today. But it is possible. If you wanted to kill the boss, you could not do any of the platforms, and you can just kill him outright. It's going to take like 10 minutes, though. Anyway, what you're going to do here is you're going to deal with these 2 tentacles, okay? How you advance the fight. The Demolisher Tentacles, the Demolishing Terrors, that is, actually. They're going to basically be like the tank mechanic of the fight. Somebody has to be in melee range of them. If somebody isn't in melee range of them, they slap the ground and deal a ton of damage to everyone. This is a bigger problem than it sounds. It's going to cause problems. We'll talk about why. But otherwise, you kind of need to keep killing those, because if there's 2 up at a time, you don't have 2 tanks, unless you're doing a 5 tank run like we did. You don't have 2 tanks. Problem's going to happen. Okay, so you got to kill these fast. But at the same time, the only way to advance the encounter is to kill the gripping terror. Okay, he's grabbing a very friendly, very jovial This guy's talking a lot, this NPC here, but you got to break the tentacle so then it can release him. He's going to fix this broken cannon. Somehow this cannon got broken. Probably just typical, you know, poor government, lack of allocation of resources. You know, the cannon breaks down. They got to send a government employee in. He's got to fix the cannon. He gets gripped up by some stupid tentacle. Now we got to fix it, you know. So anyway, you're going to break the gripping terror. He's going to fix the cannon. Somebody gets in the cannon. They shoot the boss. You have to actually hit the boss. You can miss, okay? Don't miss. You have to aim at the boss, pull the trigger, Bobby, kill the dude. That's it, okay? But as you see, the gripping terror has 3 times the health of the regular, the demolishing terror, okay? And here's a big pro tip. Pay attention. Very important. As soon as you damage the terror, even a single point in damage, it starts to spawn. I'm sorry. As soon as you damage the gripping terror, okay? A single point in damage done to the gripping tentacle, it's going to start the countdown to spawn the second demolishing terror, okay? Don't damage the terror until you've killed the first demolishing terror. I keep saying terror, it's confusing. What I mean is, don't damage the gripping tentacle until you've killed the demolishing tentacle. You understand?
Gotcha.
Okay. And this is a problem because people don't do this. And like very, very common in early phases of this expansion was for one damage dealer to start on the gripping terror and the other 2 to start on the demo, okay? And that sounds like a good strategy, but all it does is make the pacing of the fight harder. So instead, 0 points of damage to the gripping terror on all 3 platforms until you've killed the first demolishing terror. What this does is it creates about a 20, maybe closer to, you know, more than maybe like 15 to 30 second window where there's nothing else to attack other than this gripping tentacle, okay? At that point, you've now done a ton of damage from it, and it's going to make it a lot easier to kill. At that point, you probably want to have one player stay on it if you can afford it. But either way, that's a big, big, big mistake I make. Make that known. If you're watching this, you're doing this dungeon for the first time, encourage your groups, you yourself do it. Do not do any damage to the gripping terror until the demolishing terror is dead. It looks easier than it is because at the 3rd platform, you're gonna lust. That's where you're gonna lust in this dungeon. If you're gonna lust a single time in this dungeon, that's gonna be it, okay? You don't lust anywhere else in this dungeon, it's whatever. Lusting there is very, very, very important because that time you fight it, you have much, much less room. There's a lot of movement-based mechanics in this fight. There's two other mechanics. Basically, he's going to throw out this circle of water. It's going to be on 2 players, okay? 2 players, they need to be dispelled. There's a ton of freaking magic damage. Absolute ton of magic damage. If you don't dispel it from either player, they're both just going to die. You got to get it off one of them. So, but when it goes away, one way or the other, either it's dispelled or expires, it's going to knock anyone in it out, okay? Big problem with melee. You got multiple melee, it's really hard to see when it's on somebody that's not you for some reason. When it's on you, it's easy as hell to see, but when it's on somebody that's not you, it's very difficult to see. So you're probably going to want to have everybody try to spread out. But if you got multiple melee, this is going to be very difficult to do that. And it can go on all 5 players. So this is a healer mechanic. Probably one of the most healing intensive fights in the game. Not numerically, but just mechanically. A lot of things you got to worry about as a healer. But yeah, just dispel. Get the first one off immediately. Just snap dispel it. Hopefully everybody will be spread out. Me as the healer, I don't really care. If you're not spread, then that's your problem. That's your problem. I'm gonna knock people around. I don't really care. Get that off as fast as possible. Then heal the other one until you can dispel again. There's multiple ways that the other people can dispel it. Obviously, it's a magic damage. So you know if you AMS or you there's like essences and stuff that you can use to get rid of it. That was actually now I remember. That was why we stopped doing the 5 tank run because we couldn't do this fight. We couldn't kill the fight because nobody could dispel the debuff. That was it. Now I remember. Funny. Full circle. Anyway, so that's pretty much it. And then there's going to be these blue circles on the ground. You're just going to dodge those. But let's go through the whole fight. I'm going to show you why this fight is difficult. Basically because all of these, we both have this mechanic. Now if one of us got dispelled right on top of each other, the other one's going to get knocked away. What'd you dispel? Oh yeah, you dispelled it from yourself. Cool. So there you go. Monks can do that too. Windwalker monk. But otherwise, now we're going to do a bunch of damage. So basically, you don't want to use CDs on the first one. You want to use CDs at this point, you know what I mean? And again, you have a couple seconds to get in range of this terror. It can be stunned. So as you see here, we're just barely getting in range of it in time. If it started casting the ability called Hull Cracker, then we would just stun it. Just stun it to make sure it doesn't get that off. If it does, you're done. You're gonna wipe. Okay. So anyway, again, demolishing terrors they're always the priority. But if you do it that way, you can do. So I'm going to show it from this perspective. I'll give you a chance to show it later. Fires cannonballs that can explode. Again, if I'm not targeting the boss, I can miss. Okay, so just target him, kill him, blah, blah, blah. Just 30% of his health and damage. Now you got to quickly get out of here before that explodes. And again, we got to get over to the other platform. As you see, we're getting here really slowly. But it's always going to slam first. So pretty easy. If it slams first, cop's like dead or something. If it slams first, you're gonna be all right. Okay, just make sure that you don't get killed by the tentacle. When it slams, it does a stun. Okay, just make sure you don't get hit by that. Anyway, always kill the demo. Don't do any damage to the gripping until the demo's dead. Then come here, kill the demo. Problem solved. You're gonna have so much more time. And like I said, you could even just literally put all your damage on this. You could not even just tank the other mob and just you'd be all right. You know what I mean? Especially on a lower key, that's probably the best you're going to do. Also, don't go into the water. I don't know if that's obvious at this point, but water is bad in this dungeon. So don't go into the water. But as you see, Cop's about to die in a 0, so yeah. If you don't survive, if you don't dispel this, you're done. But anyway, you see how much time we actually had? The problem is you don't really want to do that because you still have to kill the demo terrors. Or yeah, you still have to kill these mobs. Like you don't just get a free pass, you know what I mean? They don't despawn or something like that. I'll res you. But they don't just despawn, so you have to actually kill them. So just keep that in mind. If at any point you like hedge your damage to kill the gripping tentacle, you're in serious trouble. Now, another thing to bring up here. The second you get in the cannon, it spawns the stuff on the other side, okay? So what you really want to do here, I'm going to let you get in. Go ahead and get in. What you really want to do here is have the tank get a head start, okay? Because if the tank is not here in time, you're in serious trouble. And I think, Cobb, you just got hit by the cannon exploding. So after you get out of the cannon, you need to make sure you get out of its AoE. Otherwise, you're going to die like you did there. So, yeah. Okay, I'll do the rest of the fight by myself. Anyway, at this point, you gotta, this is where you want to lust. You want to lust here and kill this thing as fast as possible. And then you'll have an insane window to kill that terror. You're going to have a good 30 seconds to kill the terror. You could easily finish the fight on your own by that point. Like, you don't have to kill another demo. If you lust here, kill this thing as fast as possible. Again, 0 points in damage on the gripping terror. The reason you want to lust here is because this platform is so freaking small and so up and down. But as you see here, I'm going to actually do 0 points in damage. Watch. The fight never progresses. It's never going to summon another ad. If I don't ever damage this mob, it never progresses. I could sit here for the next 10 minutes and wait to battle res Cop if I wanted to. Like, if that was needed and you could survive this ambient damage that was happening, the fight would never progress. It's not a good thing, but it's possible. So if you're ever in a position where something like that is a problem, you can do that. Wait a couple seconds and then go full on this thing. You only have to kill, again, it's 3 times the health of the demo. So if you think you can kill this before you have to kill a single demo after this, then you're good. This is actually going to be interesting here because I'm alone, so I don't know what's going to happen. But, basically this is a microcosm of the problem. If you don't have enough damage, you're going to have to then switch to the demo terrors. So you really want to give yourself the biggest window. I'll show you the hull cracker here just to show it. I probably won't die to it. But the biggest problem here is that people don't know how to deal with that mechanic. And there's the hull cracker there. It did like 0 damage. But on a higher key, it's going to do a ton. So you got to make sure you don't ever want to have a demo terror untanked, basically. And they're going to keep spawning as soon as you target, as soon as you do any damage to the, to the gripping tentacle, they're going to keep spawning. So that's the fight. Really complicated, hectic as hell, very long. Usually it's like a 5-minute fight. Even there, I mean, on a 0, I guess because I was alone, but 4-minute fight, right? So pretty crazy. Very uncommon that fight is any less than like 3 minutes long. So just keep that in mind. What do you think?
I hate this place.
Yeah, hard to disagree.
I really hate it. It's just nasty.
A lot of really complicated mechanics.
Hates World of Warcraft.
It is weird. It's almost like everything that we've ever known about a dungeon is backwards in this one. I don't really know.
It's so hard just hearing the mechanics said and then trying to adapt to them because they're so alien.
Yeah, they are definitely pretty not obvious is what I mean to say. I don't know, guys. I hate to say it, but this is probably a dungeon that I would avoid. If I was a new player, I would just straight up don't do this dungeon because It's first of all, at least for me, as a plate tank, the dungeon is terrible loot-wise. Got some of the worst gear in the game. Like, honestly, this whole dungeon, every single thing that drops from here is garbage. Even the weapon that it has is terrible. So I would probably just choose to not do this dungeon if it was only about loot. Obviously, eventually you're going to do it, but just be aware that if people actually know what they're doing in here, this could be a really easy key. I'm talking about one of the easiest keys. Under certain weeks, this could be one of the easiest keys. But under certain weeks, it can be the hardest for sure. Like, it's not even... I'm telling you, man, bolstering fortified, stay the hell away from this dungeon. You're going to die every single trash pack. You might wipe 5-6 times before you even get to the first boss. I'm not even exaggerating. I'm saying even on a 15 fortified bolstering, you're going to wipe multiple times to trash. Like, it's not even a question. It doesn't matter how good you are, how bad you are. It's irrelevant. Unless you stop every single one of those casts or you CC those mobs, they're going to one-shot your damage dealers. Just straight up, they're going to do an irreparable amount of damage to your damage dealers. It's unbelievable. It really is. And really, like Cop said, it's pervasive. The start to finish, this whole dungeon is just crazy. There's so many odd mechanics in it. But if you get them down, you know what you're doing, and it's not a complicated week, a week that synergizes poorly with it, it's a very easy dungeon. I'd say maybe top 3 easiest dungeons on some weeks. So, I don't know.
It's just... There's stuff that's so innocuous in other dungeons that is killer in this.
That's probably the best way to look at it. In a lot of dungeons, you could skate by. Like, you could not know everything, and you'd still be fine. But in this dungeon, if you don't know everything about all 4 of these bosses, you're done. Like, if you make even a small mistake on any of these 4, maybe not the 3rd boss, but if you make a small mistake on the 1st, 2nd, or 4th boss, it's probably almost assuredly going to lead to your death. And your death is probably going to take so much damage out of the fight that you're now potentially going to wipe your whole group because of it. Like, the second fight's the same. If you don't kill those ads fast enough, somehow, like, multiple DPS die there, you might as well just wipe. Because you're not going to kill the ads fast enough. There's going to be a second set that's going to spawn. Same with the 4th boss. If you don't kill the tentacles fast enough... So, by the way, I should have mentioned, there's 6 total tentacles that could spawn on this platform. 6 demos. There's only 1 gripping, of course. But 6 demos, okay? So if you kill all 6 demos, it's over. So this is what I was saying. What we did was, we killed all 6 demos and then just left the gripping tentacle there. The fight never progresses. And we just stood here and killed the boss with ranged DPS. That's it. Because we couldn't do the fight. We could not do the fight. We 18... Siege of Boralus, first week of the patch, 8.3, first week of the season, or 8.2, sorry, first week of the season, could not kill the fight. Literally could not survive the damage on the encounter. So we just gimmicked it. We fought it for about 25 minutes because we only had 2 ranged damage dealers. And it took us about 20 minutes to kill the boss. But we did do it, and eventually it was the only way we can kill the boss. So if for some reason you're trapped in here, like we were that night, you can do that. Obviously, you don't want to in a real key. But that's it. That's it. That's all we got to say. Thanks for watching. Absolute pain in the ass dungeon, but it's really not as bad as I make it sound at times. So let me know if you have any questions.
Bananas are evil.
What's that?
Bananas are evil.
Oh, bananas.
Bananas are evil.
For real. Don't ever eat bananas again, guys.